I guess for me, bicycles have played a lot of different roles and they continue to play a lot of different roles. Number one, I've been a racer and I've had a racing team for almost a decade now. I rode bikes for a living for 4 years. Of course, it's my creative outlet, and now my family gets around by bike. My goal when I'm building a bike is for it to bridge the gap between something that's really born from heritage, but then using modern materials, more of like a current color palette, graphics application, really improving geometry and the design through R&D work with my race team and through riding myself. What I'm seeing in people who come to me for a bike is that they want a real connection with the person who's making something for them. It's not the kind of thing that I can pass off as a work order and have somebody else do it. There's always a new detail on each frame, and there's always something that's a little bit different that comes out during the building process. I'm always excited about the next project, and especially if I feel like it's a project that embodies things that people haven't seen in the bicycle world yet, and just really continuing to try to master this craft. For me, working with a customer, it's more about determining what they're using their bike for and building a bike that's going to be able to do that. I think we're probably going to look back and see this as really kind of the beginning of the golden age of bicycling. And as those tides start to turn and it becomes more mainstream, you know, more and more people feel like they can be a part of that. Peter Weigle, I think, is someone who focuses so much on the craft and such crisp, refined, beautiful lines. And so over the years, I've looked at what Peter has done, and that's really been a benchmark for me.
Randonneuring bikes are meant to cover lots of ground, long distances, with style and also comfort being a paramount consideration. I call this bike the Old Soldier. A friend of mine saw it in a local landfill. They had just thrown it into the metal pile. Made in France, probably in the 50s, based on the parts. This bike rides beautifully. That's what America was making at the same time they were making this. That thing's a tank. You ride from here down to Jane's store and back and you're beat. I like to think my bikes are modern and up to date and use new technology. And yet there's so many things that have just proven themselves over time and are tried and true, and it would be hard to improve on some of those. Be out there with your fenders and your leather saddle and possibly your front handlebar bag, and other cyclists that are on full-on racing bikes look at you and they think, oh, there's a nice old gent out for a ride on Granddad's bike. When I ride them, I don't feel I'm at a great disadvantage if I meet up with somebody on a carbon fiber racing bike. If I've done my job well, maybe I'm the new inspiration, maybe I'm the new classic, if you will. If I haven't done my job well, nobody's going to want to copy or be influenced or inspired by my work.
Richard Sachs has been building bicycles for 35, 40 years. He's also been racing bicycles for all of that time.
When I first got a bike as a 17-year-old, all bikes were handmade. All of them were made out of steel. And there was this chord that struck where I thought, these are the most beautiful things that I could think of. The highlight of it all is being at the bench and working with the material, feeling the metal in my hands, lighting the torch. I just love it all. But you also want the brazing to show a certain skill level so that when somebody looks at the bike, they could say, oh, look at this detail here. He didn't file that in. He brazed it so cleanly, it shows that he has a skill level that's superior to what's commonly seen. But it's like anything else. You make these things by hand. You have this hand-eye coordination you have to deal with. You have to deal with the fact that the material, to a point, will not let you control it. It's a juggling act. You have the design, you have the construction, you have the execution, you have the finish work, you have the torch work, you have all the alignment tolerances, and everything has to be perfect at the end of the day. But what drives me is that I keep thinking around the next corner is the opportunity to nail the bike completely from one end to the other and to redeem myself for all the small mistakes I've made through the years.
My name is Mike Flanigan, and my partner Betsy Scola and I run a company called Alternative Needs Transportation, better known as ANT Bicycles. We specialize in bicycles built for transportation, and our tagline is not sport, transport. Well, my definition of a bicycle built for transportation, on the most simplest level, would be a bicycle that has lights and a bell. That way you're a legal vehicle on the road and have every right to be there, day or night. And the next thing in line would be a basket or a rack to be able to carry your things. Other accoutrements that make life more comfortable would be fenders, chain guard, kickstand, internally geared hub system, and braking systems are all other things that really make life a lot more convenient. One of the early inspirations to Ant were images that I'd seen in books of old French bicycles and other European bikes that concentrated on transportation rather than sport. One thing that sets Ant apart for its manufacturing process is that we do TIG welding or a lugless construction. And this allows me to be a lot more creative with the shapes and styles of the bicycles that I build. There are a few places that have, where the government has put an effort into their infrastructure, mostly in Denmark and Holland, but also in Germany and other countries. So they've invested in their communities by building a transportation system, just like they do with everything else, with autos and trains and ferries and walkways. They've also built cycle paths so that people can safely ride their bicycle for transportation. And that's what's lacking in America, is that we have built everything around the automobile and not around people.
I started to build bike because my father-in-law was a frame builder. The possibility to learn something about frame building was the beginning of the end.
Because he's proven that his bikes can win again and again over the last 35 or 40 years in the biggest races in the world, he's earned himself the right to explore paint finishes, tubing sizes and shapes and materials, and really break the mold, and his bikes are still super legit.
Not only in the paint scheme and the color, but I try to change something in the design of the tube sets. That is a very important part. In the last 30 years, I think many things changes in the frame building world, and now the bike must be a little bit different from the past and have a new vision of the frame building art.
This is my shop. This is where I build my bikes. And right outside the shop is where I test my bikes. So here we go.
So with a bike like Jeff's, particularly a fully rigid mountain bike, it's really an extension of your body. It's not taking away the sensation of what you're riding over. You're connected to what you're riding on. You're feeling the ruts, you're feeling the roots. Personally, I would say that it's more of a soulful connection to the bike and to what you're riding on, rather than just out kind of tearing it up. You have these contact points. Your hands are connected to the bars, your feet are on the pedals, your butt is on the saddle, and you're feeling everything that's going on underneath you. It takes a much more skilled rider because you're having to negotiate every little thing that comes along. So rather than just kind of plow over it as if you're in, a Hummer or a big SUV or something, you have to be nimble.
Every little flick of the brake lever, the steering, feeling the front wheel skid versus the rear wheel, a little bit more brake here, a little bit less brake there, what gear to be in and when to be in it. Just being out there and moving under my own power.